Hey, the Mission Control. I want to continue the video series I've been doing talking about how we've taken stuff that I worked on The Real Martian here at our ranch and that you've been watching on this channel. And now we're moving it into production and actually going to market with it, and how we're looking for investors for our crowdfunding known as the Reg CF. In my previous videos, I spoke about why Eden is a good investment for space investors. And the last one I just spoke about why Eden is a great investment for people who are into natural methods, organic food, healthy food, nutritious food. If you haven't seen either one of those videos, I definitely recommend you go check it out. I'll try to get links in the video here for you. But in this video, I want to talk about a different topic. And to some of you, this might be a little bit controversial, but I want to tell you a little bit of a story here and then get into why Eden is a great investment if you're into medicinals, that is growing your own medicines. And that means more than just cannabis for the people who want to jump right to it. Let me rewind and let's go back. Some of the things I said right there might be confusing to some of you, and to others it might be confrontational. And I want to make sure you guys understand where I'm coming from and what's really happening here. My wife and I live out in the middle of nowhere. It's absolutely God's country. And one of the things I've come to realize is that it's actually a place that's surrounded by medicine. There's just plants everywhere. And my wife has been getting really into this, where she goes out and she identifies the plant and she says, oh, this is good for that. And hey, here's a coffee replacement. And hey, these dandelions are good for this thing. And this bachelor's button over here. You know what? There's so many of them, I just completely forget. But it really dawned on me that medicine is just everywhere. And in fact, a lot of the medicines that are out there are in things that we call weeds, which is really interesting if you think about it. When we're out on walks now, she's always like, this can do this thing, this can do that thing. And I was like, we should be able to grow our own medicine again. And what is the story here? What's going on? Why is it that kind of every one of us has been taught that we need to go to the doctor and we have to get drugs issued to us, a prescription that comes from a pharmacy? What's the story here? What's going on? So then another part of the story that I want to tell you is that, for those who've been following along, you've heard me tell this story. For everybody else, you might be a little new to this, but I lost my dad due to cancer, and it was terminal cancer, 6 months from diagnosis to death, and it went by really, really fast, way too fast. And during that time, one of the things that I asked the doctors is, hey, could we get some marijuana here to help him out? Because, he had lung cancer and it was metastasized. It was everywhere. And he wasn't hungry. He was just losing weight. It was really, really crazy. And the doctor was like, well, hey, I could give you, a prescription for it so you can go get it, but you could just get the THC in this pill, kind of do the same thing. And at the time I was like, okay, my family, we're not big into cannabis. We weren't big into cannabis and marijuana. And I was like, okay. Well, fast forward to today is I spent a lot of time researching cannabis, other medicinals with my wife. And on the cannabis front in particular, I kind of have a sense of outrage. I'm not going to express it here. I'm not like, but it has really been demonized. And I was raised to hate it. I was raised, all drugs are bad, and majority of them are, especially any drug, whether it be caffeine, sugar, alcohol, all of them, used incorrectly are all really bad for you. Sugar is a drug. It's a mind-altering substance. You become addicted to it. And the consequence of overuse is diabetes, type 1, type 2, type 3. And of course, those are horrible. Alcohol is pretty easy. If you abuse that, that's bad. Caffeine is one that we all kind of skip over. We have caffeine in our daily lives and we're like, oh, hey, this is absolutely normal, but it's a mind-altering substance that you get addicted to. And if you try to stop, you'll have withdrawal symptoms no different than any other drug. And I say all this to say, I've had to step back and look at all those things and realize, why are we so down on cannabis? Why is it such an evil thing? Why is it a Schedule 1 drug? And I want to share that journey with you because some of you may not know. Many of you are probably like me, where you grew up in a family that was like, no, these things are horrible. This is bad. You shouldn't be doing this. And you listen to what I now know is propaganda regarding cannabis. So let me tell you just a little quick story on cannabis and why I've actually went from being very much against it. The story of cannabis is a very interesting one. I'm not a historian. I'm not going to get all this stuff just right, and I'm not going to go pull up all the facts. But my wife and I, as part of this journey here, we went and watched quite a few historical videos on it and some documentaries regarding the history of cannabis. Long story short, here's the key points that you need to know. Is one, it used to be mandatory that everybody grew hemp after the War of Independence for a long time because they needed the hemp to be able to make ropes, okay? So it was a very common thing that was around. Two, natural medicines were a big deal back in the 1800s up to the 1900s. It was huge that everybody would have natural medicines, roots, different weeds, different plants, little tinctures, all those types of things. Now, some people took that way too far. Like, you've seen videos of the cocaine tincture, or the heroin tinctures. Those are a little abused there. Although really interesting, those same things are in, drugs that come over the counter now, from a pharmacist. It's just from a pharmacist. Fast forward a little bit into the 1900s and enter this guy who owned a paper mill and a newspaper. And his newspaper used the paper from his paper mill. He was sitting there and he realized that people were coming up and saying, it's cheaper to make paper out of hemp pulp than it is out of paper pulp. And he's like, whoa, my little monopoly here is in danger. So he started this campaign using his newspaper as a propaganda machine to sit there and say why this hemp weed that has been around for a long time is now horrible and bad. He's extremely racist. He made insinuations of people from Mexico smoke it and they're going to rape your wives and steal your children. It was a horrible, horrible thing, and it started really making cannabis out to be this really bad substance. Fast forward a little bit more into time, and what happens, not only did that campaign start, but then the American Medical Association came out and said, not just cannabis, but all natural medicines are really, really bad. Interesting thing here is that American Medical Association was founded by the Rockefellers. And the Rockefellers, when you study history, you look at all the things that they were building up, and petroleum being a big one, and pharmaceuticals. So, all these things, they came out and they just kind of poo-pooed the whole natural remedy thing. And then they cannabis was bad. Now, fast forward further into the future, and what we see is, I believe it was under the Nixon administration. It's right when I was growing up, and then Reagan came in, and we had the DARE program. But before DARE, Nixon actually made cannabis a Schedule I drug. What that means is that it's at the same level as like something like today, methamphetamines, or heroin, cocaine, Schedule I drugs like this. And you can't do any research with it. Once it's put on the Schedule I, you can't do any research. Now that made me really think about this, because I look at everything that's going on in the last couple of years and I see the amount of advertisements that are on TV. You can't turn a channel and not see a pharmaceutical company advertisement telling you, hey, here's this new drug, here's this thing, here's this thing. And you can see the side effects. Side effects include dizziness, diarrhea, vomiting, and could cause death. And why are you taking this? Well, because you have diarrhea. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's horrible, these advertisements that are out there. So I'm connecting dots in my mind, and I'm not a doctor, so don't take any of my advice. But for my own life, I'm making my own decisions. And what I see is a structure that is sitting here and essentially has pushed something out of itself because it doesn't want people seeing it. It doesn't want people knowing about it. And this little awareness that I gained through watching the documentaries and gaining this information made me question why I believe that cannabis was so bad. I essentially was, a victim of propaganda. And so some of my family members and I, we've spoken about this, and one of the key things is, well, it's a gateway drug and it leads people to do other things. Well, alcohol is a gateway drug that leads you to, smoking dope or, doing whatever as well. The argument falls flat on its face. Can it be? Absolutely. Anybody who has an addictive personality and goes after these things, they can start one place and, who knows where they're going to end up. But the bottom line here is that it's really not as bad as what people say. And if you actually control your dosage and you use it in the right ways, it can be very, very helpful. In fact, there's an organization, I think it was the Beer Bros, who they're working together with the the armed services, the DoD, and they're helping PTSD patients, folks who are coming back from war who have PTSD. They're using marijuana to help them through this. So now there's more to this story, though. I'm going to connect all these dots for you. So far I've told you this whole history of everything coming up to this point. And now let me tell you one more story and then we'll connect the dots. So my wife and I were watching this, another video on it, and it's out of California. And in California, they're pushing the envelope as far as what they're testing. And I don't mean smoking. What I mean is there are now known to be 28 different, I always get this wrong, cannabinoids. And I might say that word wrong. I always mess it up, but cannabinoids. And what these are the chemicals that make up cannabis. And we know two of them. One of them is the most popular. That's THC. That's the mind-altering substance that gets you high. The other one people are now starting to realize is actually very beneficial, and that's called CBD. But there's still 26 others. And because it's a Schedule I drug, they can't research that. But now here's the interesting thing. In this documentary we're watching, there was actually evidence that when you take the entire plant with all these cannabinoids in it, and you reduce it down, and I don't know the process, but it's pretty easy. Like once you learn it, anyone can do it at home. Like it's not a scientific, like you got to have a PhD to figure this out, which is another one of those things that you're like, okay, what's going on here with this plant? So anyway, they take this plant, they reduce it down. It makes this like little tar looking thing. It's like a black looking oil, right? And what they're doing is they have these people who are terminal cancer, and they're like, hey, we've tried everything else, and kids really, and their parents are desperate. They've done chemo, they've done the traditional stuff, and nothing's working. Brain tumors are getting bigger. I mean, it is sad, right? I lost my dad, so I completely relate to this, and I'm like, this is not cool. We don't like this at all. What they're doing is they're working together with like nurse practitioners who are kind of skirting the law, and they're a little bit underneath it all. And they're like, okay, hey, listen, you've tried all this. Let's just try this. What do you have to lose? Let's give this a shot. And what they're finding, what they found, and they've done blood tests, it's not a scientific study because it's not allowed to be done. But what they found through evidence, through practice, is that this oil, and again, it's not just CBD, it's not just THC, it contains all these different things. They don't know what it is yet that's causing this, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm new at this. It causes the cancer cells to commit suicide, guys. The cells actually just go, they just pop open and they're done. They just stop. So we're seeing tumors that chemotherapy couldn't cure. They're being reduced in size. They're just dying, right? And this isn't hitting the mainstream. You're not hearing about these things. And that really makes me angry, because if I would have known about these things when my dad was dying of cancer, I would have just taken a THC pill. That is just BS. It's not the THC that has the healing power. It's all this other stuff that's out there. THC kind of takes the pain away, and all that, and kind of makes you calm down. But that's not what's just in this plant. Fast forward again. I forgot. I got one more thing to tell you. So I already started connecting the dots there. But one more story, and this one just happened. So about the little the bug that went around the planet here in just a few years ago, and it's kind of making a comeback here. Well, they did some studies on it with these cannabinoids, and what they found is amazing. It's essentially getting rid of the spike protein. It boosts the immune system and help not the THC. You can't go smoke a joint and deal with COVID. But the other substances in there. There's something in cannabis. There is something there that does in fact cure cancer. There is something there that does in fact help your immune system. There is something there that deals with RNA-based viruses, including Ebola, which that freaks me out. Ebola still freaks me out. I read The Hot Zone when I was a young kid, and Ebola still freaks me out, right? But cannabis has something in it, something that is special, and it's worth looking into. I mean, it's really worth looking into. There is definitely something going on, and we need to figure out what it is. I say all that to say this. What if you could grow your own medicine at home? What if you didn't have to go to the pharmacy? What if you knew exactly what was in the medicines that you were taking? And what if you can grow not just cannabis, but dandelion has more vitamin C than an orange. What if you could grow bachelor buttons and have the root in it? I think it's the bachelor buttons. My wife, she's really much better at this. And a lot of you out there, the herbalists out there, you know this. You know all these things to be true. Most of the medicines we have are plant derived, but it's hard to find them, right? So what if you could grow them all right in your house, right in your garage, all year round? You could just walk out to your natural pharmacy and pick what you need, right? And then prepare it in the way that needs to be prepared. I think there's a lot going on there, and that's one of the cool things about the eat and grow systems, the towers that we produce right now, is that they can grow anything. And you can put things that are similar to like grass or microgreens, and you can grow those. You could grow cannabis in the tall deck. We've done it. You don't have to know anything even. You just put the seeds in, put the cap, set it in, throw your nutrients in, and go. It's not complicated. The tower makes it super easy. If I had this when my dad was here, he might still be alive. That's my story is not the only one. There's other people out there that are going to have that same story. They're going to be sitting there going, if I would have known about this, if I could have, gotten it, if I had access to it, I could have helped save the people I love. That's a big deal. And what we want to do is get this technology into the hands of everybody. When we first started, it was about food independence, providing sustainable food and energy independence to local communities around the world. And now what we understand is it's not just food, it's medicine. Food can be medicine. The plants that are out there that we call weeds are probably all medicine. We just have to figure those things out again. And again, I'm not a herbalist, I'm not a doctor, but you don't have to be those things to understand that, hey, if I go eat an orange, I'm not going to get scurvy. I mean, they figured that out back in the day. You really don't have to be a doctor. Now, the process that they got there was more of a scientific one, including trial and error. Captain Cook, very interesting story there. Anyway, I digress. You don't have to be an expert to use our systems, and you could grow your own food and your own medicine. You know what that means? Freedom. Freedom for you. Independence, to being able to take care of yourself, take care of your families, and not have to depend on other people. That's pretty powerful. So bringing all those stories together, you have a great way to be able to support yourself and your family through eat and grow systems. And what we're looking for right now are people who want to invest in this vision of medicinal and food sovereignty and be able to get people these systems at an affordable rate. In order to do that, I need to be able to raise money so that we can go to our suppliers and get better costs and also redesign our system so that we get the cost out of it to make it even more affordable and more accessible so that everybody can have access to technology where you can grow your own food and medicine right in your own home. That is powerful. That's equitable. That's really amazing. And I'm asking for you to do one of three things. One, either pray for us to help us find people and for this journey that we're on to be successful, because we're going against the big guys here. Two, I ask that you go and share this message. Share this message to everybody. Let them know what's going on. Tell them about it. Go look up some history, maybe post that here, but share this message with everybody that you can. For is to pledge for our crowdfunding raise known as Reg CF, which is sponsored by the SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. It's the first process in us going public. Unlike GoFundMe's or Kickstarters, instead of you just giving money and maybe getting a little trinket and trash in return, this is actually going to give you equity. So it'll be the last time that non-accredited investors get to actually come and buy into Eden before we go public. You can pledge by going to www.edengrowsystems.com/RegCF. Once you're there, just submit your information. We'll put you on our list. We'll let you know how everything goes. You don't have to give us any money when you go to this form. You're just making a pledge. And then as the Reg CF opens, we'll get you all the information so you know where to go and how to make your actual investment in Eden. We've come a long, long ways. We have even more systems and more tools that we're bringing online. Some of the things that we're going to be doing on the cannabis front include automated pH, EC monitoring. We have all that built into our system already. We just have to find good sensors, write the software for it, and got to pay people to do all those things. So those are next steps for us on the cannabis front. We've done some experiments already where cannabis is it grows super fast, and it grows really easy in the towers. You don't have to know really much of anything. And our systems just take the learning curve all out of it. So I think we have a strong future here. And I ask you to join us on this journey and share this message with people that you know and care about. And hopefully something struck a chord here with you guys. Love to know what your thoughts are. But in the meantime, thanks for following along. Really appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you get notified. In the meantime, this is The Real Martian, out.